Slime, Book 4. Wow and pow. At the end of each day, my dad likes to ask me what my woe and po were. The woe means the best part of your day. The po means the worst part. Want some examples? Well, if you had a mostly bad day because you dropped your lunch in the mud on the way to school, your teacher made you feel bad in front of the whole class because you forgot to do your spelling homework and it was still raining on the way home. Your woe can be something small, like at least your umbrella didn't break, or if you had a mostly good day because the sun was shining and it was your birthday and you got all the present you wished for, plus the world's most delicious cake. Your po can be something as teeny tiny as getting a paper cut from the wrapping paper. Sometimes it's hard to decide that my woes are pos and I have to think really hard to come up with something. But today I didn't have to think hard at all. My woe I have a new pet, and I made himself out of slime. I know, a slime pet doesn't sound like a real pet, but Cosmo is real. That is his name. By the way, Cosmo, he's a friendly as a hamster, and he can do tricks like a dog, but mostly he likes to cuddle with me. I've never had a pet before, and having Cosmo in the lowest woe I ever had. But my grandma's missing. My grandparents are pretending that it's not a big deal, they said. Grandma Sadie takes mysterious trips all the time without telling us where she's going. That part is true. Grandma works at Astrobot Explorer, and her job is to go out and explore space. She's not allowed to talk about it that much. But her boss at Astrobot Explorers always knows where she is, even if she doesn't tell us. Except not this time. Her boss called Mom and said that Grandma Sadie didn't show up to work. Grandma's boss doesn't know where she is. No one knows where she is. I know my parents are scared, even if they won't admit it. I'm scared too. It's the poest po I ever had. Sometimes when your po is really bad, it's hard to be excited about your woe, no matter how big a woe it is. That's how I was feeling. I love Cosmo too much, but he couldn't distract me from being worried about Grandma Sadie. Mom and Dad told me it was time for bed. They each came in to say goodnight. Mom rubbed my back, which it was. She loathed. When I'm having trouble falling asleep, I close my eyes and breathe a little bit deeper so she'd think I was sleeping. She gave me a kiss on the forehead and walked out the door. I heard the click of my door closing and I opened my eyes. Cosmo? I said. He curled from under my bed and I reached down to pick him up. Mom and Dad think Cosmo is just a blob of slime and not a real pet. That's because he comes alive only for me and not for anyone else. Oh, except for Clara. She's the most popular kid in my class at school. For some reason, Cosmo comes alive to her too. I wanted to figure out why, but I was too busy worrying about Grandma Sadie. I think about it. Grandma Sadie is the reason you're hurt, I told Cosmo. Did you know that? Cosmo growled. Did that mean yes or no? I wasn't sure. So I decided to explain it to him. Yesterday I made slime in room. I'm not allowed to make slime in my room, but that's not the important part of this story. The important part is I shaped my slime into something that looked like a pet. It was the size of a kitten, but rounded, and the arms just long enough to give hugs. That probably sounds familiar because I was making you. I squeezed Cosmo closer and he hugged me back. Oh, you're the coziest pet ever, I said. But at first, I didn't think you were a real pet because, well, slime isn't usually alive. And then Grandma Sadie came over for dinner. She'd been on a trip too, secret disaster in space, and she brought me back a present. Cosmo girl, I'm pretty sure he wasn't asking. He was asking what was the present. I tell you what it is, I said. It was space dust. I was thinking about space dust. This one, it looks a lot like regular dust. Isn't that special? Also, at first, I wasn't excited, but when I got into bed, I heard a strange sound coming from the bottle of space dust. I got up to check things out. That's when I noticed that the dust had started glowing. I opened the bottle. The dust flew out and landed on you. You were just a blob back. Then you sparkled and turned alive. So you see, Cosmo, Grandma didn't really give me dust as a present. She gave me a new best friend. Cosmo and I cuddled some more. It felt really cozy. I closed my eyes and tried to go to sleep, but it was no use. I'm really worried about Grandma Sadie, I said, opening my eyes again. I had to do something about it. Will you help me? Cosmo glared, and I know he means yes. Dear Pepper Kelman, the problem was I didn't know that Cosmo or I could do about Grandma Sadie. I didn't know where she was, and I didn't know how to find her. All I had was her email address. I wrote her thank you for the space dust email last night, and I already checked to see if she wrote back. She didn't. Let's see my email again. I told Cosmo maybe she wrote back since the last time I looked. If she hasn't, we'll send another email. Do you think that's a good idea? Cosmo nodded his head. Did you just nod? I cried. Oh, whoa, Cosmo. You've never nodded before. That's a brand new trick. I'm so proud of you. Can you shake your head too? Cosmo nodded. No, boy, I said. That's another nod, not a shake. But then I realized that I probably need to ask him a no-answer question to get a shake. Are you Brussels sprout your favorite food? I asked. Cosmo shook his head. Me neither, I said. Good boy. But enough tricks for now. We have an email to write. Let's go to Dad's office. Dad's office is here in our house. That's where he writes his books. I held Cosmo in my arm, and I crept down the hall. The door to Mom and Dad's bedroom has mostly closed, but not all the way. I knew we had to be extra careful. I held my fingers to my lips so Cosmo would know not to make a sound, not even a single grope. I tippy-toed closer and closer. I could hear Mom and Dad's voices on the other side of the door. I'm sure this is all a standing in, Dad said, yearning my mom's name. By tomorrow, or maybe the day after, Sadie will let everyone know she is. We'll all laugh about how worried we were. I hope so, Tom, Mom said. Tom is my dad's name because I'm currently not laughing now. See, I knew they were scared too. But Cosmo on my shoulder and got down on my hands and knees to crawl past the door. That way Mom and Dad wouldn't see my shadow. One turn at the end of the hall, and we were at Dad's office. I closed the door softly behind me and raced to the computer. Oops, I forgot to turn on the light. I need a light to be able to see the keyboard. I was about to head back to flip the switch, but before I could, Cosmo blinked and started to glow. A second later, he was bright as a light bulb. Whoa, Cosmo, I said. That trick is amazing, way better than nodding or shaking your head, or even learning to set or fetch. He gurgled, and I couldn't tell he was proud of himself. He slid right there on the desk. The cutest light in the whole world. Wild. I logged into my email account. I pressed enter and held my breath. Please let me be an email from Grandma, I thought. Please, please, please. My email showed that I had one new message. It had to be from Grandma. It just had to be. But when I clicked on my inbox, the name of Slender was someone I'd never heard of before. Someone named Mala, capital M, lowercase a, capital L, lowercase a. A weird name and no last name. My heart stumbled as I read that. She had written, Dear Pipper Masco, this email will disappear since 5 minutes of being open, so you better read fast. You have something you want, and you have something we want, and we have something you want. Or should we say, we have someone you want. If you want to see your grandmother again, you need to bury the bottle of space dust in the window outside under your bedroom. Do this before the sun comes up tomorrow morning. We'll take care of the rest. Don't tell anyone about this email. Sincerely, Mala. Cosmo, I cried. Grandma Sadie's been kidnapped. Planting dust. And the Cosmo light went dark. Pipper, Dad said. What are you doing in there? He flicked on the light switch and stepped towards me and toward the computer screen. But Mala had said not to tell anyone what happened to Grandma if Dad saw the email. No, Dad, I cried. You can't come in here. Of course I can, Dad said. It's my office, but you shouldn't be in here. Not this late, not without my permission, and not with slime. Poor Cosmo, who was just a non-glowing slime blob again. Didn't Mom have a conversation with you about the do's and don'ts of slime last night? Dad asked. She said I wasn't allowed to make slime by myself. in my room, I said. Right, Dad said, and you're also not allowed to have it. That's close to my computer. I don't want the keyboard to get sticky. Now what are you hiding? Nothing. I lied, crossing my fingers under the desk. Dad took one more step and looked at the computer screen. My heart began to pound, but the second that he got closer enough to see the screen, the email from Mala disappeared. I didn't think it would really happen. How did it do that? Was it magic? My other old email was still up on the screen. You're checking your email? Dad asked. I nodded. Oh, Pipper, he said. I know you're worried about Grandma Sadie, and want her from her, and to hear from her. I nodded again. That was true. She didn't write me back yet, I said. Don't you worry, Dad said. Grandma Sadie is just fine. You don't know that for sure that's true. I don't. Dad admit. But when I don't know things, I look to similar experiments in the past. Every time we haven't know where Grandma was, she turned out to be just fine. So this time, I'm sure it will end up the same way. Don't you think so? I wanted to think so, but I knew something. Dad didn't. Mala, whoever they were, had kidnapped Grandma. Well, since Grandma was a grown-up, he couldn't exactly be kidnapped. But he'd been grown-up napped. Come on, Pip. That's it. Let's get you back to bed. I scooped up the blob version of Cosmo and followed Dad down the hall to my room. He kissed me goodnight again. Go to sleep, take 2, he said. But take 2 of sleep didn't work neither. Now I had 2 problems. Grandma Sadie was still missing. Mala told me to bury the space dust, but I didn't have it anymore. All of the space dust was in Cosmo. Now that Dad had left the room, Cosmo was alive again. He snuggled close, glaring his good Cosmo glow. I don't know how the space dust brought you to life, but I'm so glad it did, I told him. I've known you're for only a day, but now I can imagine my life without you. He curled some more. But now I don't have any space dust left for Mala, I said. I don't know what to do unless. Cosmo looked up at me, waiting for the unless. Cosmo, I said, remember how I told you I wasn't excited to get space dust at first because space dust looks like regular dust? He nodded. Good job nodding, I said, and listen to this. I can give regular dust to Mala. They won't know the difference. They'll let Grandma go, and everything will get back to normal. Can you turn on your light again? Cosmo blinked and began to glow again. Thanks, boy, I said, and I jumped out of bed for the first time in my life. I was excited about cleaning. Well, I was excited about dusting. I swiped a finger across my shelf and got a good scrunch of dust. Now I just needed the bottle to put it in the bottle where I had put it in. That looks like enough dust, right, Cosmo? I asked. Cosmo shook his head. Maybe I should put some more dust in there, just in case. I swiped my fingers across the next shelf, but my fingers came up dustless. There could to find more dust. I gazed around the room, not seeing any, until my eyes fell on the top of my button board. There was a layer of dust along the edge of the frame. I climbed up on my desk chair, which I'm not allowed to do. Then I stood on my desk, which I'm also not allowed to do. If Mom or Dad saw me, they'd really be mad. But Mom and Dad were all the way down the hall. I swiped my fingers across the top of the bulletin board and put the dust in the bottle. Then I put the top back on the bottle and climbed down off my desk. Phew, Cosmo, I said. That should be enough for Mala. Now all I have to do is bury the bottle in the window box. Let's do it right now, okay? He nodded. I opened my window. Shivered the night air was really chilly. Luckily, this wouldn't take long to scoop out some dirt. Next to the airways, there was an artist named Jigger O'Keefe, who was famous for painting flowers. Here, her purple Isis paintings are my favorite, and that's why Dad painted sunrise in my window box. I put the bottle of dust in the hole and smoothed the dirt back into space, being extra careful around the root of my flower. Then I patted down the dirt. My fingers were cold, and I was ready to close the window and get back under my cozy covers with Cosmo. But before I did that, I looked up at the night sky. Grandma had told me that when we look up at the night sky, we're just seeing a sliver of stars in our galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy. There are billions of stars in the Milky Way, and billion more galaxies in the university. No matter how many space trips Grandma took, she'd never get to see it all. I'm going to get you back, Grandma, I said to the sky. I promise. Another email. My plan was to stay awake all night long. That way, when Mala came to collect the space dust, I'd get to see who they were and make sure they let Grandma go. But when I opened my eyes, it was morning. I didn't even remember closing my eyes. The sun was streaming through the blind. The sun reminded me of Grandma, too. She told me a bunch of facts about it, such as the sun is a star. It's not the brightest star in our galaxy, the Milky Way, but it's the closest to Earth. That's why it seems to be the brightest star in the sky. The sun is actually not close at all. It would take us months and months in our fastest spacecraft to get there. Cosmo was sleeping next to me. The light from the sun was making his cute purple cheeks a little bit rosy. I climbed out of but careful not to wake him, and opened the window to check if Mala had come. The dirt in the window box was all messy up. The ear eyes were flopping sideways. It didn't look at all like a dragon Akfaki painting, but I didn't care. I rolled my hands around to check that the bottle was gone, and it was. Cosmo woke up. He opened his eyes and made his morning girl sound. The bottle's gone, I said. Cosmo, let's see if Grandma's back. We can fix the flowers later. I picked up Cosmo and ran down the hall. Mom and Dad were sitting on the kitchen table drinking coffee. Good morning, sweetheart, Mom said. I heard you had a hard time falling asleep last night. I was worried about Grandma, I said. Did she call yet? Not yet, Mom said. Maybe she emailed. I said, I already checked my email. You should check again, I told her. Mom picked up her cell phone. I've been checking all morning, she said. I'm sure that Grandma Sadie is fine, Dad said. I should get a cell phone so I can check my email all the time, just like you, I told Mom. No, I don't think so, Mom said. 8 years old is too young for a cell phone, but nice try. You can use my computer to check now if you want. Dad said, to leave your slime here. I didn't want to be away from Cosmo, but he turned back into a blob anyway, since Mom and Dad were in the room and I'd be gone for just a few minutes. You'll be fine here, I whispered, and I put Cosmo the blob on my chair. When he held it to Dad's office, I logged into my email. There was one new message. My heart felt like it had leaped into my throat. Please let it be from Grandma. Please, please. But the slender was Mala, and the message said, Dear Pippa Pascal, this email will disappear within 5 minutes of being opened. We know that you tried to trick us into thinking Earth dust was space dust, but we cannot be tricked. We will get our hands on the space dust, no matter what we have to do. Get it. Do not tell anyone about this email. Certainly, Mala. I stared at the computer screen. I didn't know what to do. What could I do? Well, I could write back to dust and spill. The space dust had spilled into Cosmo. But what if they said I had to put Cosmo in the winter box? Anything, Dad asked from the doorway. What do you mean? There's an email from your grandma. Oh, I said. No, there's not. Dad stepped forward. My heart stumbled with worry that he'd see what Mala had written. But the message disappeared. Before he got close enough to see the screen, Dad put his hands on my shoulder. I know it's hard to be worried about someone you love. Yeah, it is. Your mom is having a tough time too, she said. To tell you the truth, so am I. I have an idea. Let's all do a family project together. Who is Mala? Find out. In My Slime Pet, Cosmo to the Rescue, Book 5. Someone named Mala kidnapped my grandma. The end.